This is CBC Here and Now.
A new program promises legal help for sexual assault survivors.
Will help ensure survivors of sexual crime have access to justice.
After working here for nearly 20 years, this man may now have to leave.
For someone to miss a piece of paper out of a report, it's caused us no end of problems.
Diving to the Titanic. You'll have to work while you're there and pay $140,000.
Because really this is a scientific expedition to collect data on the condition of the wreck.
Increasing clouds from our next system, which will spread snow into Labrador tonight and into Wednesday, and freezing rain and rain for Newfoundland Thursday. The details are coming up.
Our top story tonight, victims of sexual violence in this province will soon be getting more help in the form of free and independent legal services.
Yes, a pilot project was announced this morning in St. John's. Terry Roberts has our report.
Federal and provincial justice ministers bringing news about a new temporary service for survivors of sexual assault. But first, a woman who suffered years of abuse set the tone of today's announcement.
I was treated differently and grew up in an environment that could only compare to a Hollywood horror film. While most children grow with love and nurturing, I was raised in an atmosphere of hate, sexual exploitation, and violence.
Federal money, $750,000 over 3 years, will fund the Sexual Assault Response Pilot Project, services that weren't available when Moore Davis needed them.
I'm convinced that the better we understand and meet the needs of victims of crime, the more just and more fair our criminal justice system will become.
The Provincial Justice Department will oversee the pilot, which will provide up to 4 hours of free legal advice.
By offering free legal advice, the Sexual Assault Response Pilot Program will help ensure survivors of sexual crime have access to justice.
The pilot project will be in addition to the supports already provided by Victim Services. Parsons hopes the new service will be available by the end of this year, but there's plenty of work to do before that happens. A coordinator has to be hired, training provided to lawyers, police, and others.
When you're in these matters, and I've been involved, where you have defense counsel who has a client, right? You have a Crown attorney who has a role, but they're not the lawyer for the victim. And we have police who have a duty as well, and often we've got situations where victims come out feeling alone, feeling isolated, and this is an opportunity for them to get truly independent legal advice, to give them an idea of what to expect and how to go about this.
Those who advocate in support of victims welcome the announcement.
I think it's going to bring people forward, knowing that it's hard when you don't have the financial ability to be able to pay for these services. So I think it's going to help a lot of people.
Well, this is a huge investment into the work of supporting survivors. We're really happy, the Sexual Assault Centre is really happy to hear that there is federal monies and investments and resources going to a place in which a lot of victims and survivors feel a lot of challenges, not only challenges but harm.
The pilot project will be modeled after a similar program in Ontario, but with one exception. Andrew Parsons hopes every resident of Newfoundland and Labrador will be able to access the service. Terry Roberts, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, you heard from Bev Moore Davis in Terry's report, and in 10 minutes we'll hear her explain why she compares her childhood to a Hollywood horror movie.
A man who allegedly yelled an obscenity at a reporter in St. John's has a court date in June. NTV reporter Heather Gillis tweeted a photo of a pickup truck Monday afternoon saying the driver had yelled a gender-specific obscenity. The not unpopular obscene phrase has been yelled at primarily female reporters during live television broadcasts. The RNC say police acted after a complaint was filed. RNC Constable Jeff Higdon says the criminal code states it's illegal to yell obscenities at someone in public.
The complainant was able to provide us with a photo of the license plate, so that was, of course, made the work fairly easy to locate the driver. And we spoke with the driver, and ultimately there were reasonable probable grounds that an offence had occurred, which was causing a disturbance, and that charge was laid. The individual will be at court on June 1st.
A UK man who has worked in this province for the last 2 decades says he may have to say goodbye to the life he's built here because of someone else's mistake. The man recently applied for permanent residency here but was rejected because the company hired to make his application did not include some critical records. Here now's Mark Quinn reports.
Jeff Young has worked in many parts of the world.
I worked in Saudi Arabia for 3 years. I worked in Abu Dhabi, I worked in Dubai, I've been in Singapore, Korea, South Korea.
But for most of the last 18 years, he's worked here in Newfoundland. He's an engineer on projects like the Hebron platform. But with the downturn in oil prices, jobs are disappearing, and Young lost his work permit. So he applied to become a permanent resident.
So if you're a permanent resident, we can apply for most jobs that come on the market. So that's why we decided to do it.
P.F. Collins was hired to make his residency application, but Young says the company made a big mistake. It didn't include the background checks that show he has no criminal record.
Unfortunately, the young lady at P.R. Collins omitted the police checks and the immigration authorities rejected the application.
Young was told he'll have to start the process of applying all over again, and it could take 3 months.
I've got no money to wait 3 months for that to happen.
Right.
Our savings are taking a pounding. I mean, I'm still paying a mortgage on this property. That's why you can see the for sale sign out the front.
P.F. Collins told CBC that it won't comment on this case, and so far federal officials haven't spoken with us either.
For someone to miss a piece of paper out of a report, it's caused us no end of problems.
Young says this is where he wants to live and work in the oil industry. But he says if nothing changes soon, he'll be forced to leave Canada in a month. Mark Quinn, CBC News, Outer Cove.
A preliminary hearing began in St. John's today for a man facing an unusual charge. 57-year-old Mark Rumbold is accused of giving a, quote, noxious thing to a woman to endanger her life or cause her bodily harm. He's also charged with attempting to kill her. Rumbold is alleged to have tried to poison her in January of last year. Police say he and the woman knew each other. The preliminary inquiry is set for 4 days. There are expected to be about 20 witnesses. An international student at Memorial University charged with attempted murder has been found fit to stand trial. Masih Al-Bakshi is alleged to have had an altercation with a fellow student near one of the Signal Hill trails earlier this month. They ended up falling about 7 meters or about 20 feet. Police say the two men knew each other. Al-Bakshi is from Iran and is studying engineering at Memorial. He's back in court tomorrow afternoon for a bail hearing.
Well, it's the little fish that has a big impact. The Department of Fisheries and Oceans is putting in more time and money into studying capelin. As Peter Cowan reports, other species may depend on those little fish.
For many people in Newfoundland, capelin are the first sign of summer, rolling in on the beach when they come to spawn. But for the rest of the marine environment, these small fish have a big role.
Capelin are a linchpin. That's the simplest I can put it. If you don't have a lot of capelin, you don't have a lot of other stuff, for the most part.
And right now, you don't have a lot of capelin. The numbers were healthy until the early 90s when the stock collapsed, and it's only slightly recovered. Scientists still don't know exactly why.
The collapse of the capelin stock was coincident with a very cold period. Some people argue that there was a large die-off. Some people argue that the capelin went away because at the same time as the capelin disappeared from here, we saw increases in the occurrence of capelin in other parts of Atlantic Canada.
The Department of Fisheries and Oceans has hired a researcher dedicated to studying capelin. It will also spend more than $2 million to do a seismic survey to get an accurate account of the stocks. A return of the capelin may be key to the return of the cod. Cod stocks are up, but like the capelin, they're still not close to the peak levels from the 1980s. Capelin are the main food for cod, but without capelin around, the cod are busy eating shrimp and crab, hurting those two stocks that are already in trouble. Even with the low numbers of capelin, DFO does allow fishermen to take about 72,000 tons of capelin.
If you overexploit those, then everything cascades down the rest of the food chain. There's absolutely no way of getting away from that.
So is capelin due for a comeback? Unfortunately, scientists say the short-term prospects aren't great. They don't expect the numbers to grow much in the next few years. Peter Carolyn, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, this was the scene in Gander around noon today. Emergency crews closed the Trans-Canada Highway through town for about an hour after two vehicles collided. Two people were taken to hospital. There's no word on injuries, but they were conscious and talking as they were getting into the ambulance. Last year's move by the federal government to extend employment insurance benefits to hard-hit areas of the country has benefited this province greatly. Over $160 million was pumped into Newfoundland and Labrador through out-of-work people who qualified for the extended employment insurance benefits. In total, 42,000 people here put in claims for an extra 5 weeks of payments. The federal government set up the program to help 15 hard-hit regions across Canada after energy prices plummeted in 2016. And to date, the extended EI top-up program has cost over $1 billion, nearly twice as much as expected.
Well, 50 years ago this week, people in the province, especially the St. John's area, got a whole new shopping experience. The Avalon Mall opened its door on April 24th, 1967. With stores like Woolco and Sobeys, it simply became known as the mall. It began as one level with just a few dozen stores, but it's gone through a number of makeovers through the decades, including the addition of a second floor. Today, there are more than 130 retailers.
Is a St. John's land.
After the break, we take you back to today's announcement about help for survivors of sexual assault and hear one woman explain why she compares her childhood to a Hollywood horror film.
Well, if you've always wanted to see the Titanic up close, really close, and you have $140,000 to spare, then you won't want to miss the details we have for you later in our program.
This weather update is brought to you by the Take Charge Business Efficiency Program. Over 400 businesses have saved energy and taken charge of their bottom line. Find out how you can too.
What a lovely sunny day it was today, but cool, but so bright you could see for miles and miles.
And miles and miles. Great segue, Debbie.
Nice.
You know, often we get a chance to look from space, and NASA's MODIS satellite, I show it often, but today is one of those days where we're literally cloud-free for pretty much the entire province, and so it gives us a perfect look at, well, lots of snowpack across Labrador, and you can see Upper Lake Melville there clearly with the ice full there. That sea ice rolling down the coast of Labrador. A bit of cloud cover there and some gravity waves being picked up, which is pretty cool. And how about the Strait, where, yeah, the Apollo is getting through. The Terry Fox has been helping things out there, but you can see where there's a little bit of breathing room now for that sea ice through the Strait of Belle Isle. That pack ice rolling down the east side of the Northern Peninsula. Of course, the Green Bay, White Bay areas are pretty chock full, as is that north coast is socked in with lots of pack ice there. Down towards the western side of the Bonavista Peninsula, you can see where the pack ice is jammed in there pretty good. Trinity and Conception Bays now ice-free, and have a look at the Avalon here, where a pretty fantastic shot where we can see most of the Avalon is snow-free. Some snow in still the, especially the Conception Bay North area and the higher elevations of the Northeast Avalon and St. John's. So a pretty cool shot there, courtesy of NASA's MODIS satellite. And you can see where this area of high pressure has been keeping skies clear, allowing for a shot like that today. Our next system is approaching off to the southwest there, and the cloud cover, in fact, is just starting to roll into Labrador City. And so these clear skies won't be hanging around as we cloud up tonight into tomorrow. The area of high pressure was nice. It was allowing some of those northwest and westerly winds to funnel in some cooler temperatures today compared to yesterday, where highs today topped out at just +1 in Happy Valley Goose Bay, -2 in Labrador City, and much cooler across the island today, just 4 in St. John's, the high near -1 in Daniels Harbour, and 2 degrees in the Corner Brook region, 3 to 5 degrees through central parts of Newfoundland. And temps is still hanging on, not too bad this evening, but we will really drop tonight under those clear skies. A frosty start yet again for tomorrow, but a bright start for the island, as the clouds won't quite build in until through the day tomorrow. Here's how it plays out. Some snow rolling into Labrador through tonight. By the time we get to tomorrow morning, the snow is underway from Happy Valley Goose Bay back across to Labrador City. Bit of a dry punch possible here, but I do think we'll still be seeing at least some flurries with -3 to start your day, -7 in Happy Valley Goose Bay. Nain will be just a few clouds to start the day. A few flurries possible as far east as Cartwright. A quiet start for the Straits and down the west coast, and as cold as -10 to -11 for inland and low-lying areas of central parts of Newfoundland. So indeed a frosty start with those light winds. Now, as we work throughout the day tomorrow, you'll note the snow mixing to rain across southern parts of Labrador, and watch the clouds thicken up across the island from southwest to northeast through the day tomorrow. Really a cloudier than not afternoon for everybody. We're going to bring in some shower chances for the Northern Peninsula down towards western Newfoundland. More so, I think this forecast model is a little bit early. I'm thinking more so the 8-9 p.m. time frame for Corner Brook and most of the west coast to get into some of that rain. And then the periods of rain really funnel in for Wednesday night through Thursday. Special weather statements in effect for that. And as this area of high pressure over Labrador sinks down, this mixing from rain to freezing rain will then occur across the Northern Peninsula first, and then into central parts of Newfoundland, and there's special weather statements in effect for that. Looks like here in the east and across the Avalon we'll hang on to the rain through Thursday with some very mild temperatures, double digits on the menu. We'll talk about that coming up in your long-range forecast. We'll be close to double digits across parts of the Avalon for tomorrow. Winds are going to be in from the southwest, so the northeast Avalon will be the warmest spot. Temperatures in the 7, 8, even 9 degree range for tomorrow. Cooler in those onshore winds with that southerly flow. So we're talking about 4-degree temperatures across in those onshore winds across the south coast. Work your way inland, you'll find yourself some warmer temps in the 6 to 7 degree range across central central and western parts of Newfoundland tomorrow, again with the clouds building in. We are looking at that snow mixing to rain for the Straits, Mary's Harbour, Cartwright and Happy Valley Goose Bay as the temperatures rise to 2 to 4 degrees, and no doubt where that front is sitting for tomorrow with those temperature contours I have in place. -2 in Makkovik, -5 in Nain, and yeah, we'll flirt with the freezing mark but remain snow with 5 to 10 centimeters by the end of the day in Labrador City. That's your short range, and your long range is still to come. Debbie?
Thanks, Ryan. Well, as we told you earlier, free and independent legal advice will soon be provided for victims of sexual violence. Funded by an annual grant from the federal government, the 3-year pilot program was announced in St. John's today. Bev Moore-Davis spoke at the event and believes the program will help a lot of people who can't afford to hire a lawyer. Here's Moore-Davis telling part of her story and why she supports the program.
I was born in central Newfoundland to a single mom. I like to think that she thought she was giving me a better life when she gave me up for adoption just a few weeks after my birth. I was raised by a family and did not find out I was adopted until my mid-teens. However, it was very early in life when I realized I was a typical member of the family. I was treated differently and grew up in an environment that could only compare to a Hollywood horror film. While most children grow with love and nurturing, I was raised in an atmosphere of hate, sexual exploitation, and violence. Luckily, I developed coping mechanisms. I often daydreamed about my real parents coming to get me. There must have been a mix-up at the hospital, I thought, because real parents wouldn't hurt or hate their own child. Someday, mine were going to figure it out and they were going to come and rescue me. I cried myself to sleep many nights praying for such a rescue. As a teenager, I contemplated taking my own life. The fear of punishment had I failed was so great that I couldn't take a chance. My life was a living hell, and it seemed there was no way out. At age 17, I became pregnant. I was scared beyond belief. When my mother was unsuccessful at beating it out of me, she threatened to give my baby away for adoption. This appeared to be the ammunition I needed. When my family went to bed, I opened my bedroom window, and with nothing but the clothes I was wearing and my will to survive, I jumped out and I ran away from home. I was a runaway. I lived most of my adult life struggling with shame and embarrassment of sexual abuse. I did not talk about my past. I tried to not even think about it. This was manageable by day, but unfortunately not so much for night. For approximately 15 years after the period of which I ran away, I woke up many nights screaming from nightmares or fiercely clinging to my comforter, as I often believed there was somebody in my bedroom. At some point during therapy, there was a shift in my thinking. I finally accepted that I had done nothing wrong. I was a small child. I did not deserve this, and how could I take responsibility as a child for the actions of an adult? If my child was hurt, I wouldn't blame her. I also realized that I had to accept it. It is my past. And it is just that, it is the past. There is nothing that I can do. I can't go back and change or undo or fix. I had to accept it. And I have accepted it. And I've moved forward knowing that I own today, I control today, and every day going forward.
And Bev Moore-Davis has devoted a lot of her time and energy to helping others deal with the effects of sexual violence. She started the Miles for Smiles Foundation, a nonprofit that focuses on awareness and prevention of child abuse. There's more information on her website.
At large.
After the break, we'll tell you what it takes to get on board an adventure trip that will see people leave St. John's and head under the sea to the site where the Titanic is resting.
The last trip I'm going to use for the year, and anyway, we'll go in and I tailed up a few days ago, see if we get anything.
Life on the line. The CBC's Jacob Barker tags along on a Labrador trap line. That's coming up on Here and Now tomorrow. More people have traveled to space or the top of Mount Everest than have visited the wreck of the Titanic, but OceanGate Expeditions may be about to change that. It's planning a series of deep dives on board a submarine starting May of next year. Passengers will depart from St. John's to travel 600 kilometers offshore and 3,000 meters below the ocean surface to the wreckage site. A ticket to the Titanic will cost about $140,000 Canadian. And joining us now to talk more about this is the CEO and co-founder of OceanGate, Stockton Rush. Thanks so much for being here.
Pleasure to be here.
So what does $140,000 get me?
Well, there are two things. One, people who come on the expedition we refer to as mission specialists. So it's not a tourist trip, and you don't just get to pay and come. Actually, what people need to do is they have to fill out an application. Then we interview them, and then they get to pay the $140,000. Because really this is a scientific expedition to collect data on the condition of the wreck as much as it is an opportunity to come see it.
So what will they be required to do? What is the job of a mission specialist?
Well, we have a number of tasks that they can do aboard the submersible when they're diving. So, for example, the sonar system, ranging in, ranging out, changing angles of that. Communications, simply calling to the surface, giving data updates on the status. Then there is photography and handling those systems. So we let the specialists decide which system they'd like to be working on. It's not a strenuous work schedule, but hopefully a very enjoyable one.
And St. John's has a role to play in all of this too. What will be happening in this province?
Yes, so when the mission specialists come out, they will arrive in St. John's the day before they leave, and they will get an entire day of training, both on these systems that I mentioned, but also what's called helicopter underwater egress training, where they get in a mock-up of a helicopter fuselage and are dropped into a pool, and they learn to get out. And that's critical because the next day they fly by helicopter out to a rendezvous point about 200 nautical miles out in the open ocean, where they meet the ship, and then it transits out to the Titanic because there aren't any helicopters that can go all the way to the Titanic and back.
What kind of person is this trip designed for?
Well, it's certainly an adventure traveler or exploration-focused person. The first 9 clients are clients of Virgin Galactic, so they are space explorers. They had done some traveling together, and they thought this would be a great thing to do in addition to going to space. So that fits the parameters.
What has the demand been like so far? Are you getting many takers?
Yes, well, we sold out the first 54 positions for May of 2018, and we have filled 2 weeks of 2019. So our goal is to go back every year and be able to, over a long time period, see how the wreck decays year to year.
Yeah, can you tell me a little bit more about what the passengers, what the mission specialists, what they'll see when they're down there?
I think the condition will look like it did in the underwater scenes of the movie The Titanic. There's been some reports that it's decayed beyond that, but it'll certainly look like the shape of the vessel, but these things called rusticles, which are biological organisms that are eating the rust, as well as just the process of general decay and corrosion.
Tell us a little bit about this submersible, because there aren't many subs out there that can handle a 3,000 meter dive.
Yeah, correct. And it's actually 3,800 meters. There are only 4 submarines on the planet that can get to that depth. They're all owned by governments. So this will be the first privately owned sub capable of going that deep. And all those other subs can only carry 3 people. They're actually quite cramped inside. We have a reasonable amount of space inside of what we call Cyclops 2. We have been working on this for over 7 years.
And is it very maneuverable? Like, will you be able to go inside the Titanic, or how close will you be able to get?
Well, I should be clear. We're not going to touch the wreck itself or disturb any of the artifacts around it. It is a grave site, and we will treat it as we would Normandy or Gettysburg or any other site like that. The sub is quite large. It's very maneuverable. I could write my name in the mud with the sub. That's how maneuverable it is. But it is large. It's 22 feet long and over 7 feet wide. So it won't be going in. In future years, we will take robots from the back of the sub that can go inside.
What's the level of danger with this type of expedition?
Well, surprisingly, the safest part of the expedition will be the submarine part. In the last 35 years, there hasn't been an injury on a commercial private sub, although there have been over 15 million people go in them. Going to sea is intrinsically a risky activity, but we're doing everything we can to make sure that it's as safe and comfortable as possible.
Well, Stockton Rush, thank you so much for being here, and I guess we'll see you in St. John's next year.
We're looking forward to it.
After the break, we'll hear from some people who are flying out on the trip of a lifetime. We'll give you a hint. It involves a lightning trip to Disney. Well, there were smiles at St. John's International Airport this afternoon as some young students from St. John's started the trip of a lifetime. They were picked to go on Air Canada's Dreams Take Flight to Disney, a whirlwind adventure from here to Halifax and then on to Florida tomorrow for a full day at the Magic Kingdom. And the fairy tale ends tomorrow night when they head home again. I dropped by the airport to catch all the excitement.
This year from St. John's area we have 8 children going. However, for the Atlantic chapter we have a total of 160 children going and 51 adult chaperones. We're taking a 767 from Halifax, so there are other children from the Atlantic provinces joining us, New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, PEI, and Newfoundland and Labrador as well.
How are the children chosen for this trip?
For the trip, actually, we work with a number of organizations such as the school system, also social services, the Boys and Girls Club. Any nominating agency can actually put a child's name forward on our national website, dreamstakeflight.ca. And we take children between the ages of 6 and 12 years of age, and they could meet social, physical, or economical challenges, and we like to select a variety.
You've been involved in this program for a while. What is the feedback you get from the children and their families who've experienced this flight?
It's incredible, actually. It's a life-changing experience. We give them a day away from their life, and it gives them a chance to see their potential, to be a child for a day and to escape the realities of the real world. And we've had a number of people that it has affected for long term as well. We actually have a participant who was on the program years ago who came back to volunteer with us and is now our nurse on the flight as well.
My name is Destiny Janes, and I went on this flight 6 years ago, and it was the most amazing experience of my life.
How so? What was so special?
I made so many new friends, and it was just the experience in general. Like, I got to go on so many rides in Florida. I had so many experiences there, and it was just incredible.
Did it make you feel special?
Yes, it did. Very much so. It was my first flight I've ever went on in my life, so it was pretty special to me.
And now your brother, Tyrone, is going to have the same experience. What are you hoping for him?
I'm hoping that he has the best experience of his life because he deserves it, so.
What do you want to do when you get to Disney?
I want to go on Splash Mountain and Thunder Mountain, and also go on the go-karts there.
And did Destiny tell you all about her experience? Is that why you wanted to go?
Yes.
So Mary Lee, you are Destiny's and Tyrone's mom. How special is this to see your children take advantage of this program?
Very special. Tyrone really deserves it. He's an awesome boy. He always tries his best, and he's good.
And your daughter certainly seemed to have a wonderful experience. What did you see when she came home from this trip?
She had lots of goodies and lots of good memories to tell us all about, having a family so big. We don't get to take trips like that all together, so it's two down to go for a trip. And I think Destiny told Tyrone a lot about it, so I think he's going to have fun.
That's wonderful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Can we come?
Yeah, they're all heading down for some nice weather down here, but not so much for us. There's more freezing rain.
Oh.
Yeah, and we've had a lot of ice here in St. John's. The northeast Avalon got really hit hard, obviously, the 60 hours straight. This freezing rain potential is more for central and the northeast parts of the island. Back across to southern sections of the northern peninsula, and I'll show you the area in just a second. It is building clouds and precip on the way for Wednesday. The snow rolls into Labrador, and for Newfoundland, it's a rain late day, and then again, the freezing rain and rain potential is for Thursday, and then we're back to RDF as the southerly wind kicks back in for Friday into Saturday. So the icing won't be lasting too long, but could be potentially significant for central sections. Again, a couple of players on the board here. This low working into the Great Lakes right now, and this low working up the eastern seaboard with a ton of moisture. Those two lows are going to merge into one, and then we'll push into our neck of the woods slowly but surely over the next day or so. Here is how it all plays out. Again, it's a quiet start to the day in Newfoundland. A cool but quiet start. Frosty once again. Labrador's into the snow tomorrow morning, and Happy Valley Goose Bay in the southeast will actually see a mix over to some showers as temperatures rise to 2 to 4 degrees. Showers into the afternoon for the northern peninsula. I think Corner Brook will stay dry until tomorrow evening, but certainly the clouds are thickening up, and temperatures again anywhere from 4 to as warm as 8 degrees for St. John's and the northeast Avalon for tomorrow, and southwesterly winds. There are those temps on the rise in the southeast parts of Labrador, below zero from Makovic through Nain, and again that accumulating snow for Lab West. So this is where special weather statements are in effect, and if you are checking it out on my Facebook page or the blog, cbc.ca/Ryan Snoddon, there's actually two separate weather statements in effect here. One for central, the northeast. This is for the freezing rain potential. The other is for the rain potential from the Port-au-Port up through Corner Brook into the Grossmorn area. And we could see amounts here over in the 25 to 30 millimeter range through Thursday as that rain really sets up. Note on Thursday, the highs near 3 degrees for central and east. Central and west, falling through the day as the winds shift to north. St. John's in the east, it looks like that frontal boundary will be to the north, and we'll hang on to the double digits here. 10 degrees my forecast high. Looking at sun and cloud for Happy Valley Goose Bay and eastern Labrador, and snow mixed with ice pellets for western Labrador. Watch the front here, picking things up Wednesday evening, and this is why we're going to be seeing that icing as this front actually sinks southward. So temperatures falling, and that's why we're talking about the cool temps for Corner Brook into central. St. St. John's and the Avalon, it looks like that front will stay just to the north, and that's why I've got temps into the double digits there. Happy Valley, Goose Bay, and you folks in eastern Labrador will stay clear under this area of high pressure. Snow and ice pellets work back into western Labrador, and it's a bit of a messy mix into Friday as well. Snow and ice pellets across the Big Land. It does look like that front will then lift northward as we move into Friday on the island, and so everybody moves back into the 10, 12, 13 degree range potentially. We're talking about showers, but not ruling out some sunny breaks either, especially for central and eastern parts of Newfoundland. Showers and an icy mix with showers in Happy Valley, Goose Bay. And there's your 7-day trend. We'll hang on to the warm temps for Saturday. Again, not ruling out a sun break, but a good chance of showers on Saturday in the mix. Just scattered, one of those days with a little bit of everything on the menu. We're cooling off Sunday and into next week. And again, Labrador clearing out Saturday into Sunday as well.
Okay, it is time. You know what time it is. It's time to meet our young athlete of the day. This is Nathan Nolan from Marystown. Nathan is 8 years old.
He plays defense with his team, the Marystown Mariners, and he enjoys playing softball and hockey.
Way to go, Nathan. You're today's young athlete of the day.
Well, this looks like emergency officials had a scary scene to deal with this morning in Labrador, but it was just a training exercise to prepare for the real thing.
Welcome back to Here and Now. A gruesome scene unfolded in front of a Happy Valley Goose Bay school today. Emergency vehicles flocked to the front of Mealy Mountain Collegiate in response to a mock accident. For students, it was a crash course in the tragic outcomes of drinking and driving. Here and Now's Jacob Barker reports.
Not a pretty picture being painted here. The aftermath of a drinking driving accident. Gabriel Pike was first on the scene.
Car accident, snowmobile accident. How many people are injured? 6. I think one of them is dead. Yeah, Gabriel, I'm gonna send the police and the ambulance now, okay? Okay.
The apparent cause of this fatal accident, a drunk skidoo driver. Emergency crews work hard, keeping their calm, dealing with the situation as an audience watches on. The suspect taken away in cuffs. For the 3 trapped inside the vehicle, the jaws of life come out. Reassuring words from emergency responders keep comfort in an otherwise chaotic situation.
It's kind of scary.
How come?
Because it happens in real life.
This mock accident, a timely message for these students who are getting behind the wheel for the first time.
To see the impact of what this would cause, I think is going to have, it's going to be perfect for them.
Well, we all know, that some of the young people are involved in drinking and partying and smoking dope or whatever, and we just try to prevent for any future accidents here, and if we could save one life, well, this is it.
Like, the hardest part for me is not what I actually did this morning, taking the fatalities from the scene, but on the other end, I've got to deal with the parents when they got to come in, and they got to pick out a casket for their child, which is heart-wrenching.
I'd never do it, but I don't know about other people. They should be smart and not do it.
All the time it's going on in Goose Bay, and there's no need for it. It's just waste of life. There's no need for it. And it's really opened a lot of people's eyes, I hope.
As the injured carted into ambulances and the deceased are taken away by the funeral home, it's a lesson these first responders hope sinks in. Jacob Barker, CBC News, Happy Valley, Goose Bay.
An update now on a CBC News investigation we brought you earlier this month that revealed some insurance companies have been denying coverage to victims of domestic violence based on where they live. Some provinces have passed laws to block the practice, but others, such as Ontario, haven't. And now we've learned of another disturbing case. The CBC's senior investigative correspondent, Diana Swain, has the story.
Wendy Sochek's burns extend up her arms and over her face, head, and chest. 30 surgeries haven't been able to repair the damage done when her husband, struggling with mental illness, doused her with gasoline, setting both her and their house on fire.
I want to be, somebody take it my pain and see how I feeling.
Some of that pain has been inflicted by her insurance company. Allstate refused to pay for repairs to her house, citing a clause that allows it to nullify the policy if anyone named on it intentionally sets the fire, even in a case of domestic violence.
I shocked because I know victim, a woman abused, I know do nothing.
While Sochek's husband is serving time for attempted murder, she's been locked in a 6.5-year battle with Allstate. Last week, an Ontario judge sided with the insurer, saying it was technically within its rights to deny her claim. But the judge called the company's conduct less than admirable. His ruling came just days after CBC News profiled a similar case in Ontario.
Yep, that's it.
Terry Lynn Robinson's husband set fire to their home, and Allstate refused to pay. Ontario Liberal MPP Mike Cole will introduce a private member's bill tomorrow to force insurers to pay out in cases like these.
I've let people in the insurance industry know that this has got to be fixed, and essentially they know they can't stand by and let this injustice continue.
Contacted by CBC News, Allstate says it now realizes its policy exclusions have had unintended consequences. The company says it's reviewing its practices. Diana Swain, CBC News, Toronto.
Great West Life plans to cut 1,500 Canadian jobs. That's about 13% of its workforce. The move is expected to save the insurance company about $200 million a year. The company says it will try to achieve as many cuts as possible through attrition and early retirement. 450 of the positions being cut will come from its Winnipeg headquarters. The cuts are expected to take place over the next 2 years.
We're learning more about the death of a toddler in Edmonton. Anthony Rain's body was found outside a church on Friday. Police say the 19-month-old died of head trauma and some time before was abandoned. They say he had bruises all over his body. The boy's father, Joseph Cryer, and his girlfriend, Tasha Mack, both face multiple charges, including second-degree murder, criminal negligence, and failing to provide the necessities of life. A public vigil is being held for Anthony tonight at Edmonton's Good Shepherd Anglican Church.
The Prime Minister answered some pointed questions about pot during a town hall last night. Justin Trudeau talked about the time his younger brother Michel was charged with possession and how his father intervened.
Said, okay, don't worry about it. Reached out to his friends in the legal community, got the best possible lawyer, and was very confident that we were going to be able to make those charges go away.
Trudeau's candid comments come as the federal government prepares to legalize marijuana next year. During the town hall, the issue of amnesty for marijuana-related charges was raised. Trudeau would only say he would start a process to make things fairer for those with pot convictions. He also said the law of the land stands until recreational marijuana is legalized.
Foreign Affairs Minister Chrystia Freeland rubbed shoulders with Ivanka Trump today. They both took part in a panel discussion at the W20 summit in Berlin on how to encourage women in business. The minister was asked about a Canadian-American joint council for female entrepreneurs.
Of course, supporting women entrepreneurs, girls' education in the developing world is a great development tool, but we also have a lot of work still to do at home. And I very much believe that this Canada-US Women's Business Council is going to take a real leadership role on both fronts.
The Joint Council was announced in February when Prime Minister Trudeau visited Washington. It's made up of 5 women from each Canada and the U.S. The council's aim is to recommend ways to promote female-powered enterprises and boost economic growth.
An icebreaker that's going to be making a trip around the country as part of Canada 150 celebrations is getting spruced up in Lunenburg. CBC took a peek. Canada C3 is an ambitious plan for a sea voyage of the country's 3 coasts. The former Canadian Coast Guard icebreaker is undergoing retrofits to get it ready. It will leave Toronto on June 1st and end up at Victoria, British Columbia. Participants on board will include musicians, scientists, and students who will share their stories as they go along.
A new report says breathing the air in Toronto's subway system is as bad for you as walking around on a smoggy day in Beijing. It's by far the dirtiest subway system in the country, and the main culprit is the train brakes. When they're applied on the rails, tiny particles of metal enter the air. The air is bad for the heart and lungs, but most people will not have enough exposure to suffer long-term health effects. The measurements were done in 2010 and 2011. The Toronto Transit Commission says it continues to make many improvements.
Well, plenty of Elton John fans are singing the blues tonight. He is canceling a string of concerts in Las Vegas for April and May because he contracted a rare bacterial infection. But the good news, he's recovering. The legendary singer became ill while on tour in South America, and it left him in intensive care for 2 nights. Welcome back, everyone. Well, Cuba's Bay of Pigs has been invaded again, this time not by anti-communist forces, but by millions of red, yellow, and black land crabs. Oh my. Every year after the first spring rains, the crustaceans march for days on end, heading from surrounding forests to the bay on Cuba's southern coast to spawn in the sea. And they wreak havoc along the way. The tiny creatures cover roads, climb buildings, and can even puncture car tires. You would not want to be vacationing in Cuba in that area at this time of the year.
Oh my
obviously.
goodness. They are just everywhere. Oh my goodness. Well, you know, sometimes you just have to dance. Yes, this woman gets it, busting some spontaneous moves on Sunday while out walking her dog in London's Soho neighborhood. As you can see, she really got the party started. This video is already seeing more than 5,000 retweets. Safe to say she's gained quite a few fans in the process. Wow, that is a party.
She got it.
Nice, very nice. Okay, I posted this picture yesterday on my Instagram account and also Facebook, mentioning that it was from near Jackson's Arm, but we got some clarification. Learn to See Kayak says that it was actually taken north of Jackson's Arm between Jackson's Arm and Harbor Deep, but either way,
wow.
Look at that berry, just the roof showing in the top of
See
the
it by
trees.
July. Good night, everyone.
Yeah, that's right.
Good night.